Welcome back to a new episode of the Shout at the Devils podcast. I am Justin Brady, aka Devils Fanatics, and I write for Jersey Sporting News. And I'm here with my co-host Daniel Amoia, aka devils.report, and he writes for the Hockey Writers. And we have a lot to talk about on today's episode. The Devils get a massive win in Dallas over a very good Dallas Stars team, winning 6-2. Very good performance overall by the team. And this is a win that puts them 4 points out of a playoff spot. They're very much still in it. Daniel, what do you make out of yesterday's win?
I think it's a great win. Good team effort all around. Guys like Nick DeSimone, Santeri Hitaka stepping up big time. That's what you need. Good teams need lesser players to step up. Even guys like Chris Tierney, Dawson Mercer, guys who have been struggling lately, all finding the back of the net. So all good signs. With that being said, how many wins have the Devils had this season where everyone's like, this is the win they could build off of? I want to see it. The bottom line is they are still, yes, they're in the race. They're only 4 points behind the Islanders. Islanders do have a game in hand, I think.
Yes.
Um, so it's great. Don't get me wrong. Dallas Stars are a tough team, but they need to continue to stack up wins for me to even give them any sort of resemblance or give them any sort of chance to make a run because it seems like every big win they've had, they've followed up with a measly loss. Well, just look at the Anaheim game as a perfect example. Just catastrophic failure on a game that was handed to you on a silver platter. So I want to be able to see more out of this team aside from getting just one win and then bouncing back. There's a reason they haven't won more than 3 games this entire season and consecutively. So it's great sign. Good, better to see them win than to lose, obviously for their sake. But I'm gonna need to see way more to be convinced.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I like that you mentioned Nick DeSimone. He had a great game. He led the Devils in ice time in his first game as a New Jersey Devil, and he was benched for what, 20 games since he got traded to the Devils. I don't even know how where the Devils got him
I'm
from,
on
what,
waivers.
waivers. Yeah, it's really a mystery with this guy, and he just came out of nowhere. Nobody expected much out of him, and he really stood up and really delivered. He made multiple key blocks a game and made multiple key blocks in the game, was really strong defensively, I thought. Ate up a lot of ice time for the team. Really great coming into relief. Him and Hataka for Siegenthaler and Marino. You need to have depth if you're going to win in the NHL. And these guys came up big for the Devils yesterday. And yeah, like you mentioned, some other guys stepping up. Nosek got his first goal as a Devil. He finally got something to go for him. Tierney, 2 point night. Curtis McDermott gets a point of all people. So everybody chipping in last night. Alexander Holtz got a goal as well. That was like his second goal, and I believe in his last 23 games. Now, obviously, I know he doesn't get that much ice time, but still great to see. And yeah, funny enough, the Devils get outshot 37-20 in this game, and they got 6 goals on 20 shots. They got Jake Ottinger, one of the best goalies in the last 3 years, out of there. 10 shots on goal, four goals for that. And Jake Ottinger's out of there. They bring in Scott Wedgwood. Pretty remarkable performance by the Devils. They've had a tough time, to say the least, finishing their chances. But last night sure was not the story. So, I mean, it's something that you could really rebound from, build from. But yeah, it's the same narrative over and over again. They really just gotta click. It just something just has to click in there. They have to go on a streak. Something else I want to mention: their penalty kill was really strong. 3 for 3. They went on the penalty kill against. I believe the Dallas Stars had the sixth or seventh best power play in the league heading into this game with a 24% success rate. So pretty good there overall. Great game by the Devils. Definitely a game that you could say, oh, maybe they didn't deserve to win, but know what? They were the team that finished their chances. They got big saves from Jake Allen. They played pretty solid defensively overall. Just a really good game overall. I really like what I saw from the Devils
Yeah, I do want to backtrack a bit. Jake Ottinger is having a pretty bad year.
this year, but I just meant in general,
This
like
season.
it's
Yeah,
yeah.
his high danger save percentage is second worst in the league to drum roll Vitek Vanacek, who's currently the worst in the league. Um, but the bottom line is the Devils have gotten goalied by some pretty mediocre goalies before too. It doesn't matter who's at net, you still gotta finish your chances, and that's what the Devils did last night. So it was kind of nice to see that story flipped a little bit. Normally it's the other team goaling the Devils and the Devils struggling on their end in terms of goaltending, but obviously that wasn't the case last night. So it was nice to see that script flip.
Definitely. They're definitely a win that they could build off of. We'll see what happens going forward here. We want to mention the goaltending. So obviously a big change happened. We'll get into the trades coming up here real soon. But yeah, the Devils made a move for Montreal Canadiens goaltender Jake Allen. He still has a year of his contract left after this season, and then they traded Vitek Vanacek straight up for Kaapo Kahkonen from San Jose. So two big deals that we did not expect to happen. I did not expect the Devils to even make a move for a goaltender, but they did, and they made two moves actually. So now it seems like Akira Schmidt's now back in Utica. I don't know what's gonna happen with him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be sent down to Utica, especially with the AHL playoffs coming up real soon. Probably want him to get going for their final stretch there. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, these last two performances from these Devils goalies. Kaapo Kahkonen played a really strong game against the Rangers. Jake Allen, yeah, he gave up the first two goals on the first three shots he faced against Dallas, but then really got settled in. Daniel, what do you make out of these two last performances out of these goals? Obviously, we can't blow anything out of proportion. We can't get too excited, but really good sign, right, Daniel?
Yeah, so I'll start with Kakkonen. I thought he was very solid against the Rangers, a tough Rangers team. He made some huge saves, and I know Tom Fitzgerald laid out the plan that Jake Allen is basically guaranteed to be the backup next season. But I don't think they should count out Kaapo Kahkonen. I think it should be more of a goalie battle. His um Kakanen's salary, what the Devils are paying is only less. It's like I think $850,000 more than Allen's. I think if he and I'm just going off a one game sample, so obviously Allen had the better game of the two. But I think if Kakinen is able to have a much better end of the season, I don't see why they can't at least entertain the idea of bringing him back. There other teams around the league there are so goalie starved where the fact that the Devils are only paying half of Allen's salary, I find it hard to believe they wouldn't be able to shed that. And a big reason I'm so big on Kakkonen as possibly being a backup next season, which again I don't think the Devils will do, but his high danger save percentage is second in the entire league to Jonathan Quick, 829. For comparison, Nico Dawes, 730, ranks 43rd in the league. Vanacek, 641, dead last, number 56. Allen, 738, ranks 40th. Kakanen's number two in the entire league. And what did the Devils do more than basically anyone else? Give up high danger goals. And I think that's what we saw in the Rangers game. I know he stopped Zibanejad on a breakaway, a Kakko a couple times he stonewalled Lafreniere. I mean, there were some big chances and high danger chances that Kakkonen shut down. So I think it's great for him that he was able to hit the ground running there. And that's not saying Allen doesn't deserve it. That's not saying I think Kakkonen should be the answer, but I think the Devils should give him more of a look than they currently are because it seems like right now their plan is basically just to go Allen no matter what. And I think you should go with the more talented, the better performing goalie no matter what. But
I no, I agree with you. I think really it just let these guys battle it out. Let's see who gets that backup role. It's clear that Fitzgerald wants to trade for a big goalie in the summer, whether it's Markstrom, Soros, Olmark, whoever. Obviously, we're not talking about that right now. We'll worry about that in the
yeah,
offseason when time comes. But now this is a fight for the backup role for next season. But obviously, we still have this season left to go. Who
yeah.
knows what could
Well,
happen here?
that's what I was just gonna say. If they're able to say to them like, look, like you guys are battling it out for it. That's a little healthy competition. Maybe that'll push both of them. Devils are still in the race. See a crazy run like Andrew Hammond had many years back, or even Aiden Hill last year. Like we've seen some crazy runs from goaltenders that come out of nowhere.
Hmm.
And even Alex Lyon with the Panthers last year. So it that's me. I think the Devils are they made it pretty clear that they're going Allen no matter what. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you got to at least give them a Kakkonen a pretty fair shot. Then if it's equal, then you obviously go with Allen. But we'll see what happens. Regardless, Allen was superb last night.
Word.
Started off not so hot. Two goals on the first three shots, a goal 15 seconds in. and then a goal that he definitely wants back, just thrown on from the boards, banked off his right skate and in. He definitely knows he should have had that one. So it was kind of like, oh boy, here we go again. Like
I know.
it felt like watching 2021-22 Andrew Hammond again, or John Gillies. And that's like the vibes that I feel like everyone got right away. And then just snap of fingers dialed in 36 straight saves for Allen, including a multitude of high danger chances. And he really, I think he basically stole that game. I mean, the offense was clicking, but a few of those pucks go in at times where they have all season, really, with the goaltending the Devils have had. It's a completely different narrative, completely different game. So, like you said, Devils got heftily outshot, but Allen kept them in it and did what he had to do. It's a great sign. If he's able to do that, it won't matter what Kaapo Kahkonen consistently. It won't matter what Kahkonen is doing, because that would be huge if the Devils are able to land someone like Markstrom or Saros over the offseason, which Fitzgerald made pretty clear he's going big fish hunting. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I really like Allen because you know what? Yeah, he gave up those first two goals in the first three shots of the game, but then he's able to settle in, which I feel like we haven't seen much from Devils goalies this year. Usually they give up a really bad goal like Allen did, and then they just totally
Spiral.
unfold. Yeah, spiral out. Then they do the goalie change as always. It's just totally spirals out. But no, he really settled in, locked in, and really delivered for the Devils, made especially in that second period towards like the end of that second period, they were up 5-2, and Dallas was on a total surge. And Allen made like crazy, like 4 or 5 high danger scoring, stop 4 or 5 high danger scoring chances. So I messed up a little bit in the words. Um, but yeah, credit to him. That game could have gone out of hand real fast. We have seen that plenty of times this season with the Devils, and it's good to see that he was able to shut the door on Dallas. So yeah, great to see this small sample size from these two Devils goalies. We'll see how they do this upcoming weekend on a back-to-back. To move on, yeah, the Devils made a lot of trades at the trade deadline. They made four. Um, and a lot of them I'm not a big fan of, but we're gonna get into them. We're gonna give our trade grades for how we think the Devils did this trade deadline. So first off, the one that really hurt me the most, I think you probably on the same page with me, Daniel, Tyler Toffoli. This one stunk for me at least. They trade Tyler Toffoli to the Winnipeg Jets for a 2025 second round pick and a 2024 third round pick. I mean, I get it. You're gonna trade Toffoli because they were Devils and Toffoli were not on the same like communication. Like they Toffoli wanted a long-term contract. The Devils didn't want to give that to him. I get that at his age. Makes total sense. But to not get a first round pick out of him, I know Winnipeg didn't have a first round pick, but I mean, if that's the best you could get, I don't know. I just wouldn't do it, but it is what it is. It's done now. Best of luck to Toffoli going forward, but I would have not done the trade if it was for that value.
Yeah, I mean the winger market was just not in favor of selling teams this offseason. At first I was like, yeah, that I still don't think it's a great return. I think they could have gotten a little more, but teams for wingers at least weren't really dishing out those first round picks. And since the Devils weren't on the same page, do I think they could have got a little more, maybe a prospect as part of it? Certainly. But I still think it's a move they had to make, because odds are they aren't making the playoffs, and even if they somehow squeak in, they're probably not going on a run. There's a lot of issues with this team. That's reality right now. There's stuff to work on in the offseason. So I think regardless, it's a move they still had to make. Like I said, would have liked to see more of a return, but at least they got something. The Devils have drafted great in the past. Their past two second rounders, Seamus Casey and Lenny Haminaho, both guys were talking about as if they're first rounders. So we'll see what they could make out of it. But I still think it's a move they had to make regardless. So
Yeah, no, I totally get you when you say that. They also made another trade with the Winnipeg Jets. Colin Miller to the Jets for a 2026 fourth round pick. This one I hated most out of all trades. It just doesn't make sense. I feel like Colin Miller has been a reliable defenseman for the Devils all season, and You just trade him for a fourth round pick and then in 3 years down the line. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Just let him finish out his contract. If he leaves in the offseason, he leaves. I don't know. I think he's been too good of a defenseman. His shot, he has a wicked slap shot. He's been really good defensively, very reliable for the Devils. Can give them top minutes when he needs to. I don't know. I don't get it.
I'm gonna disagree entirely. I think that's a perfect move by the Devils. I think they saw the position they were in, the fact that they're likely not making the playoffs, and at that point you have an unrestricted free agent who's probably not coming back next season, most likely. And he still can. He's an unrestricted free agent, so it doesn't change that at all. Um, get the assets while you can. Always want to build up assets for future trades. Like I said, the Devils have drafted well themselves. Um, I just think it really if the Devils are going on a run and making the playoffs, Colin Miller isn't completely moving the needle himself. Someone like Toffoli does. But the bottom line is Miller is still a bottom pairing defenseman. He wasn't playing like 25 minutes a night in the same way Luke Hughes is. Yes, he was great in his role. I have nothing bad to say about his play. Colin Miller was for his role was phenomenal this season, but he only had 3 goals. So yeah, he had that slap shot, but he didn't often find the back of the net. And he was pretty reliable, but he wasn't like overly physical. He wasn't this dominating force. He was just a solid bottom pairing defenseman. And the fact that the Devils were able to parlay that into some assets, a fourth round pick, it's not even like a sixth, seventh round pick. That's a pick where we've seen some NHLers in the past come from. I just think it doesn't really hurt them at all, knowing the position they were in. And I like the fact that the Devils didn't try to double down and realize that like, look, things are not looking great. We don't want to mortgage the future, anything like that, or hurt us even further. Let's just hit on the brakes. Crazy things could still happen. I mean, they still have a team. Maybe they'll make the playoffs. Who knows? But I like the fact that they were making it clear that this season isn't acceptable. And by dealing guys like Miller, that shows that there's a higher standard here, and we're going to do whatever we can to make sure we don't relive this current season, next season, future seasons, because they still have a young, promising core.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned the assets because like I feel like what they're doing is to Foley and like the Miller trade. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of them, but I think they're getting assets to possibly make a big splash for a goalie. That's like I mean, obviously we talked about if Fitzy's gonna make a big move, hopefully in the offseason, and these draft picks definitely help with that. Unless it's for a goalie, I just don't get why they're gonna trade for draft picks other than for that because at this point the Devils are still in a like their window's very much open. Yeah, it's a letdown season, but I want some guys that could maybe come in and help, and that's why I like that they brought in Jake Allen, which we'll get into really shortly here. I just want them to get some guys that could help in the very near future, and if they're using these draft picks to actually draft players, not to actually trade for somebody right now. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I think their windows, I think they're very close. I know it's been a very tough season, but I feel like they're a player or two away from really just being like, all right, the Devils are back. They're a good team. They're going to be a Stanley Cup contender for quite a while. That's how I view this right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of hard to evaluate. There's just
It
been
is.
so much wrong this entire season. So much that's gone wrong. So it's tough to really tell. I don't think last season was a fluke. I think they showed that their
No,
pieces are capable of getting stuff done. Obviously, there were a lot of injuries, but again, I think be, even if a trade's not certain, more assets is never a bad thing, especially when you know as a fact that you're going to be, as Fitzgerald said again, big. I forget his exact phrasing, but
big
he's
head hunting, maybe.
it was
Maybe.
something with fish. That's all I know. But the bottom line is he's going for a big name goalie this offseason. He made that very clear. So again, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, and then Devils make a move for Jake Allen. I like this move. They trade for a conditional third round pick. They traded their conditional third round pick, and Montreal is retraining 50% of Allen's salary. So I think that's a really good move. Really benefits both sides. I think it's a good deal for the Devils, and we'll see where it goes from there. I think it's easier said than done. And then the Kahkonen trade, they trade straight up for Vitek Vanacek, and this is a very underrated move because you get Vitek Vanacek's salary cap hit off of next season because Vanacek still had another year remaining. and that could give the Devils some big salary cap relief going into next season to make a big move for a goalie. And Kakonen's on his last year of his contract. Obviously, we don't know if they're gonna bring him back. It seems like they're not going to. So we'll see what happens there. But I overall, the two goalie moves, I'm a big fan of. I like them. They're not anything that's gonna change this franchise drastically, but they're two good moves that could help the team in their future.
Yeah, Mike Greer did the Devils a favor here. The fact that the Devils, with the way Vitek Vanacek has played, were able to entirely get his contract off the books is a massive, massive win and completely changed the course and the overall feelings around their entire deadline. Um, my coworker Josh Reines just wrote an article about how now we see Fitzgerald's exact plan. There's no more scrutinizing him for what he did with goaltending. I mean, you can still criticize the fact that he didn't make a move earlier, but bottom line is he made his plan very clear. He was very transparent about it, and now we know what to expect in the offseason. So the fact that they were able to unload that VTech money is ginormous. And I guess for the Sharks, it kind of makes sense because they have a cap floor they have to reach. They're not planning on being competitive next year. So, I mean, why not? But
Yeah, they
and
traded so many of their great players. They just traded Tomas Hertl to Vegas, so it's just
yeah.
like the dumpster fire right now there.
So not only that, but the Devils were able to get someone Kakinen who sneakily is a very good ad. He's like I said, second best high danger save percentage in the league. Mainly just a victim of the Sharks playing zero defense. I did wrote an article yesterday. I think the Sharks had given up 650 more scoring chances than the Devils this season. And it feels like the Devils have given up a lot. So
Yeah,
at 177 of those were high danger. And that's just more than the Devils, a team that's not exactly lighting it up defensively themselves. So obviously Kakkonen was their number one. So or at least split time with Blackwood. So he was a victim of that. He gave up a lot of goals that weren't necessarily his fault. So the Devils can see what they have here. I think they're gonna end up picking Allen no matter what. They made that pretty clear. But even for this season, you never know. Crazier things in sports have happened. If they're trying to make a run, Kakkonen is a solid guy. We saw the Rangers game. Goaltending wasn't the issue in that game. And that's what they need right now. Just someone solid who's not a complete liability in net. And I feel like with both Kakkonen and Allen, that's what you're getting.
definitely. I'm gonna take a look into the playoff race right now for the Devils. They are 4 points behind the New York Islanders for that second wild card spot. They are 8 points behind the Lightning for the first wild card spot, and they are 8 points with a game in hand on the Flyers for the third Metropolitan spot. They're very much in it for all those three positions. If they can get on a run here, obviously they made it very tough on themselves because what prior to this game they were 3-8 since the Stadium Series game, so they have not helped themselves. But these other teams in front of them are really struggling. Detroit's on a 7 game losing streak. The Islanders, yeah, they got on a bit of a run, but now they've lost two in a row. So Washington's kind of just like win one, lose one. So they're very inconsistent. But another team that surprisingly just came out of nowhere, Buffalo. They just came out of totally nowhere. They were below the Devils all season long. And I think that at one point they were like 13 points behind the Devils or something like that. And now they're a point ahead of the Devils. They've gone on a bit of a run. And yeah, the Devils still have a game in hand on Buffalo, but it's just another team now that they have to climb. They have a really uphill battle ahead of them. So it's very possible though if they can get on a run. It starts with one game, which they did in Dallas, and you just have to build on from there. I just they have to string wins together if they're gonna make the playoffs. These teams they have an opportunity. These teams are letting them still be in the playoff race. They got to do it.
It's so funny. I think of it like that Oprah meme. It's like you get a car, but you get the second wild card spot. You get like they're all just giving each other the second wild card spot. No one wants it.
I
Every
know.
time a team either gains possession of it or is close to it, they lose. Like it's actually it's kind of awful that the Devils are even in the conversation for it right now. The fact that really how they played all season, but specifically lately. And the fact that they're right in the thick of it is really astonishing. It would be kind of funny if after all this you had what Detroit, Washington, the Islanders,
Buffalo.
Well, I was gonna get to Buffalo, but Pittsburgh after all that, and then Buffalo
Pittsburgh's
ends up
still there,
taking
yeah.
it. And then Buffalo ends up taking it. That would be kind of funny. But yeah, I mean they are right in the thick of it. Do I think it's gonna happen myself? Absolutely not. I don't think the Devils have proved that they deserve it in any way, shape, or form. But sports are crazy. Things happen that don't make sense. Teams go on runs, they get hot, they gain confidence. Have there been many games to build off of in the past? And they haven't, sure. But you know what? They're still alive now, and that's all that matters. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's impossible because 4 points out, that is extremely doable. So it's up to the Devils. They somehow keep getting handed these opportunities on a silver platter constantly. Every time we say they're out or doubt them. And I still do doubt them, but the bottom line is they're in it. So it's up to them now. It feels like the Arizona game is almost a repeat of the Anaheim game, which they're so lucky to even get a repeat of that game because that game was atrocious. But
Yeah.
it's a slam dunk. Arizona is a team where if you're serious at all about being Stanley Cup contenders, you have to beat them. You're in the thick of this race. You have to beat Arizona, and that's just the how many the Devils lost to Columbus at home, to the Sharks, to Anaheim, to Washington twice at home, to Montreal once at home, all in regulation. Just imagine if they won two of those slam dunk. They also, like I said, lost to Anaheim on the road. Two of those 7 or 8 slam dunk games, if you're able to win them, it's a completely different story. The Devils are basically tied for a second wild card spot right now. So
Yeah.
it's
And Tyler Toffoli and Callum Miller still probably would have been on this team. It's
possible.
crazy.
So maybe that's a blessing in disguise that the Devils were able to get some assets.
Who knows?
So we'll see where that goes, but it's really, I mean, I really don't believe they deserve to be a playoff team. Do I think that that could change? Definitely. I keep saying that. But nothing they have showed me has shown that they deserve to have be anywhere near this race, yet they are. Because these other teams just don't want it. Even the Flyers themselves I mean, they're pretty ahead of most people, but they're still not playing well themselves. Every team in the mix, the Penguins have been atrocious. Really, besides Buffalo, every single team in that race, and actually the Islanders have been surging lately. But aside from them, everyone is just ice cold. But yeah, the Devils do have a lot of teams they're going to need to hurdle over. So it's not a slam dunk for sure, but all they can control is winning games, and that starts with a game that they absolutely have to win in Arizona. Even if they do win in Arizona,
Please. Please.
even if they do win in Arizona, I'm definitely not completely sold. But if they lose that game, it's like, okay, we gave you like 8 chances and it still didn't happen. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no questions about it. They have to beat Arizona.
Yeah, and you know what? They have a lot of opportunities to gain some ground going forward this season. Yeah, they have the 2 game stretch this weekend, Arizona then Vegas. Arizona, you gotta win that game no matter what. If you win that game, there's a very much likelihood where you jump 2 teams in the playoff race, and you're possibly 2 points out of a playoff spot because everybody else who's in the playoff mix is playing really hard teams. So we'll see how that goes. It could be very interesting come Saturday. And then you play Islanders, Islanders twice actually. They play Pittsburgh twice. They play the Flyers one more time. So they have to win those games as well. So they have a lot of opportunities to gain some ground here. And they just gotta take advantage of them, plain and simple. If you're gonna make the playoffs, you gotta beat the teams that are all around you right now in this playoff mix. And the Devils have a big opportunity in hand here. And let's see if they take advantage of it. If they were in the Western Conference right now, they would have been 9 points out of a playoff spot. So it's kind of a joke that they're still in it with a 32-30-4 record. But hey, I'm not complaining. Let's see what happens here. I'm really excited to see what happens down the stretch. It's still at least it's still something to look forward to. At least like this last month of the season is just gonna be like, oh great, another Devils game. Yay. Like at least it's something to look forward to. We'll see what happens. I'm excited.
Well, that's if they beat Arizona.
They'll beat Arizona. Mark my word. If they don't, we'll come back to this and we'll clip it. We'll clip it.
So Devils Fanatics is guaranteeing a victory in
I'm
Arizona.
guaranteeing a win this Saturday against Arizona. Not against Vegas. I won't say that. But this Saturday, they're going to beat Arizona. You got my word.
We'll see.
Please.
Yeah, so like I said, the writing's on the wall. They keep somehow keeping themselves afloat. I won't even say keeping themselves afloat. The other teams are keeping the Devils afloat. But bottom line is they are afloat. So I feel like we're being a dead horse here. That Arizona's a must win, and even I mean, I wouldn't call Vegas a must win. That's going to be a tough task on a back to back in Vegas. A super team now in Vegas that is suddenly over the deadline really beefed up. But anything could happen. The Devils surprise Florida at home. You don't need to necessarily outshoot them, just capitalize on your opportunities. We're gonna need I think the Devils are going to need Jack Hughes to really step up. And we know he's probably playing through something. He hasn't been the same, but he hasn't scored in a while, it feels like. And this is an opportunity for him to step up as a superstar on the team when the games matter the most, when the lights are bright. So we'll see. And some other guys, depth guys like Dawson Mercer, like we saw last night. Lower guys like Chris Tierney. Like everyone needs to chip in right now. Everyone with Toffoli out of the picture, other guys are gonna need to step up.
Definitely. So we'll see what happens. Looking forward to it. Thank you guys all for listening to today's episode. We really appreciate all your support. And we'll see what happens this weekend. See if the Devils could put them in a really good position going forward here. Thank you guys and peace out.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Shout at the Devils by your hosts, Justin Brady and Daniel Amoia. As always, let's go Devils, baby! Woo!